This time we are talking all the things Vertices Unite. What is the difference in sizes between the Vertices Unite small and large? How does the differences compare with regards to yarn usage? And I will give you a tip that I think is really important to know. Hello, my name is Jalene. Welcome back to my channel, and I'm so happy to have you here. The last 2 years, or rather last year and this year, we have been doing in this community space a Vertices Unite World Knit Along. Last year I can't even remember in which month that was, and now in April that has just passed, I have hosted a knit along where we could knit the Vertices Unite shawl, the Vertices Unite baby shawl, and the textured Unite, all Vertices type of shawls from Stephen West. What a blessing, and how great to be able to knit that pattern. So why is the Vertices pattern such an amazing pattern? The first Vertices Unite shawl the pattern came out I think in 2014. And since then, it has been such a much loved pattern. And I absolutely know why. The reason is it's a versatile pattern, right? There is you switching yarns in sections. I think there's 6 sections. Is there 6 sections? I can't even remember how many sections there is. Wait, I know. Let me tell you. There's 6 sections, and then you have the border. So in some of those sections, you are changing yarns from every second row to every second row. There's some short rows. There is some increases. There's some decreases. There is some modular knitting, there is some icord bind offs, and the pattern lends itself perfectly to be able to use scrappy yarns, leftover mini skeins, advent sets even, and you can really have such a great play of color and customize it to however you would love to have the shawl look like, right? And I'm talking at this experience now pretty much just from the Vertices Unite shawl. I'm not going to touch really on textured Unite because I haven't knit those, and I'm not going to talk about the baby blanket. But so last year I hosted the first knit along for the Vertices Unite World Cowl, and I decided to make the large shawl. I really love a large shawl that can really wrap around your body, and the Vertices Unite in terms of large is perfect. So I've been using fingering weight yarn. This is my newest finished object, but we'll come to this one. But I want to show you the one I've done last year, my shawl. And so in trying to comparing all the yarn stitch, sizing, yarn usage, I really try to use the same base of yarn for both the shawls, the large and the small I've knitted. So we're going to compare that, but let me first show you the large shawl. And I mean, oh my goodness, it is pretty. This is my large shawl. It's really lovely. It's really nice and big. It can really hug you. I love this shawl. I wear it so much, and you can wrap it in any way and make a nice big neck thingy, extravaganza neck piece, or just wrap yourself in it. It's beautiful. So in this shawl, I have used Miss Lamotte yarns, which is a South African yarn dyer, and the base that I use is a 90% merino, 10% linen base. However, the only difference different yarn that I've used in this shawl that I've not used in the small version of the Vertices Unite is the 75% merino, 25% nylon base. So the undyed yarn that you would see in this shawl, which I've also done the icord bind off on the big size, on the large size, I've added a 75-25 base yarn. Right, so this is my large. Absolutely love it. It is absolutely gorgeous. Absolutely love it. So what I've done with the large is I used the large, the last Advent set that Miss Lamotte yarns have dyed. I think the last year, that was 2022, 23, I can't remember now. But anyway, I used her Advent set from 2022, which is, like I said, a 90% merino, 10% linen base. It's a great base. It's a one single ply fingering yarn. The shawl also, the pattern calls for fingering weight yarn using a 3.75 hook, needle, I think. Yes, or 3.5. I can't remember now. I've used the recommended hooks needle size in this pattern or in these makes. And yep, so fingering weight yarn, and this is a gorgeous base to work with. If you have never worked with a 90% merino, 10% linen base, single ply fingering weight yarn, it is luxurious. Lovely, absolutely lovely. So I had such a great time to knit this, and using my Advent mini skeins. I think at the time the mini skeins were 20 grams each. I think all the details in terms of the projects for both the large as well as the small is contained in my Ravelry project pages. So in some sections, like section 1, which is such a big section, and we're going to talk about how big it really is in a bit, you would see some of my mini skeins started to run out. So I was starting to do fading techniques, right? Running from the green, incorporating the next skein, every other row in between the undyed skeins, up until I was just fully onto the next new skein. But it is perfect to be able to play with colors. Even in this section here, which I now can't even remember what section this is. Was this section 1? Where's section 1 now? This is so big. I can't, but yeah, there's within sections that I'm trying to do fading, because some mini skeins will not be enough, especially if you do the large shawl. But don't be scared to play with colors and do fading, and do within one section different colors. You can definitely do it. All right, so this is my large, which, like I said, I absolutely love. And I've just hosted the Vertices Unite World Knit Along again. We had so much fun. And this time around, I used again fully 90% merino, 10% linen base. I've knitted the small version, and this time I've used Estheresa Yarn Creations, which is also a local South African yarn dyer. And the Advent of 2024 I have used in this Vertices Unite small version. So you can see my yarn running out here, started new sets of yarn. It is such a great knit. It's so much fun. Now you would think, okay, modular knitting, increases, decreases. You're talking about short rows. Let me tell you, the pattern that Stephen West writes is so good, and there is so much tutorials available on his YouTube that you will not struggle. In fact, there's even some links in his pattern to be able to assist you picking up on modulus, on the next section. Where do I need to pick up stitches to knit, for instance, section 3? So you will not be left alone and feel like you don't know what you need to do. The resources are amazing, his patterns are amazing, and I always say his tutorials, his video tutorials is absolutely brilliant. So I can highly recommend you do this, especially with leftover yarns, especially with mini skeins and advent sets even. You would have so much fun to knit this pattern, and you're going to learn a lot. If you don't know increases, decreases, short rows, icord bind offs, you are going to learn so much, and it will feel like such a celebration when you're done with the shawl. All right, so I want to talk about the comparison between the two sizes. You would see I will show pictures here where I actually have my shawls flat out on the ground. Then I would have my large shawl at the bottom, and then the small size on top, just to give you some sort of an idea of how it compares in terms of sizing. And then I'm also going to talk about how much yarn I've used. I'm going to break it down for each section. I'm going to talk about the large one versus the small one, and I'm also going to talk about the comparison in terms of sizing of the sizes of the shawl. It's very interesting in terms of sections. I'm going to break it down. I'm also going to talk about the weight of each shawl for the large and the small one when they're finished, as well as the wingspan before blocking and after blocking for both the small and the large. So if you're interested in that, then you need to keep on watching. So let's compare the small and the large in terms of yarn usage for each section. For the large size shawl, for section 1, I used 118 grams of yarn for section 1, whereas for my small version, I used 48 grams of yarn. For section 2, I used 40 grams of yarn, and then for my small, 16 grams of yarn. For section 3, I've used 62 grams of yarn, and for my small, 29 grams of yarn. Section 4, 19 grams for the large, 8 grams for the small. And then section 5, 35 grams for the large, 13 grams for the small. And then for section 6, 40 grams for the large and 16 grams for the small. It's interesting. You can see it's almost half of the big amount of the large that you're almost using in your small. But I'm sure that this will be able to assist you making decisions with regards to yarn usage, thinking about what colors and the sizes of leftovers that you might have left over. It's obviously depending on the yarn base that you have. That is definitely a factor, and the meterage per 100 grams of yarn will obviously have an impact here. Let me maybe just give you the information for the 100 grams of yarn for superwash 90% merino and then 10% linen. For 100 grams, that is almost like 350 meters. So for both these shawls, this is what I was working with about 350 meters per 100 grams of a yarn skein, right? So I don't know, depending on how many meters is on your skein of yarn, 100, it depends. It might differ slightly, but I think this is a good exercise to be able to figure out how much less or more, having some sort of an idea of how much you need per section. So I hope that will be very helpful. What I also estimated then was to really look at the percentage, how big each section really is. If you have done section 1, you have done 35% of the shawl. Section 1 is really a big section. Section 2 is about 12% of your knitting time goes into that. And then section 3 is 19%. Section 4 is small, 6%. such a quick section to knit. And then section 5 is 10% of the total size of the shawl. And then section 6 is 12%, 10%, I said 10% for section 5, 12% for section 6, and the icord is 6%, the same amount as section 4. The icord actually goes really quick. It's not that big. So by the time that you've knitted section 1 and 2, you have already done 47% of the shawl. So section 1 and 2, if you've done that, you're basically halfway, right? So that is quite nice to know. Section 1 is really the most biggest size of the shawl. So if you've done with section 1 and you've done section 2, then you're almost done. So the total weight of my shawls for my large was 335 grams for my shawl. And then for my small was 144 grams. It's amazing, right? 1 and a little bit more, 1.5 skein of yarn, basically, right? All just broken down into smaller mini skeins, but it's quite amazing. And then my wingspan for my large before blocking was 208 centimeters. And after blocking, it was 241 centimeters. I will give the yardage or the inches. I will have a photo up with that. For the small, I had before blocking 126 centimeters. And after blocking, it was 170 centimeters. So it really grew. But also bear in mind with the small, I had fully only 90% superwash merino, 10% linen yarn used within the whole shawl. And in my large, I had a little bit of undyed, 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon. So it's a pity. Maybe I must redo at some point just, the whole experience or the whole experiment again to really be able to have a good apples versus apple situation. But I think it's so neglectable. Like you don't even have to take the 75-25 into account. I think you'll get the same type of answers, I would think. But yeah, that is basically all the comparisons. So it was such a great experiment. I love to be able to do that and love to be keeping track of the yardage the grams, the weight of what each section contained, because I love the VERTICES UNITE shawl. I love to knit it. And I think it's interesting when I make future decisions about placements of yarns and mini skeins I've left over, where can I put it in section 4, section 1? No, it's too small. I cannot do it in section 1. Okay, maybe I can do like a fade in section 1. With all those decisions, this data really helps me to make decisions in the future. And I hope that it will help you to make decisions for your vertices, either large or small shawl. The one tip that I want to leave you with is to really size up your hook. No, not hook. I'm a crocheter as well. Your needle size with your icord bind off. It is a game changer. It really, really helps. That's the one tip that I learned from my first large that I've done. And I've continued with that in my second shawl, in my small. And it's really a valuable tip to do when you start with your icord. Pick up the icord stitches and then do your icord, is to actually size up the needle. So I believe the pattern is calling for 3.75, right? Millimeter needle. Am I correct? No, 3.5. I've done it as per the pattern, a 3.5. Yeah, Stephen West does love his 3.5 millimeter when he does shawls, right? We know that from the mystery knit-alongs. So needle up to a 3.75 millimeter. You can even maybe do a 4 millimeter needle for the icord bind off, but it's a great tip. And I think actually the icord, doing it in other projects with one size bigger needle is a great tip for other projects. So that is my story in terms of comparing my Vertices Unite Large versus my Vertices Unite Small, wingspan, yarn usage, breaking down of each section in terms of how big they are. And I hope that you find it very helpful to make decisions for your future Vertices Unite project. I'm not going to say bye yet. I want to leave you with some of the beautiful photographs that some of the participants have sent me so that I can share the beautiful finished projects and maybe some even progress pics of their Vertices Unite, either textured Unite, baby blanket, all the makes of some of the participants that have participated in this year's Vertices Unite knit along. So have a look. I hope that you will enjoy it. There's absolutely beautiful makes. Thank you for those that have joined us in this knit along. And then, yes, I hope you find this video very helpful. And please give it a like if you did. If you haven't subscribed, I would love for you to subscribe to my channel. That would be so cool and I would appreciate it so much. And then please let me know if you find the information helpful. I would love to know. Let me know down in the comments. Until next time, enjoy these beautiful, beautiful Vertices Unite pictures. Bye.